All right. Welcome everyone. Great to have everyone back. So today we'll be diving into another section of visual design foundations. All right. So last week we looked at how to use color to evoke emotions and guide attention, and also said okay, also arranging elements to improve user flow, and also how to align content with structure grid and font pairing for clarity and tone. So today we'll be looking at setting visual tone with cohesive mood board, and then we'll also look at iconography. So let's look at, remember the core component of visual design. So we talked on, as I said, color theory, typography, layout, and grid spacing and proximity. Well, today we'll be looking at imagery and iconography, visual hierarchy. We looked at that when we talked about typography, balance and contrast, harmony. We looked at that, consistency and design patterns. That was being looked into last class. So, introduction to iconography. So, this is a very small in size topic, but it's massive when we talk in impact. All right. So iconography in design. So let's look at this simple example. So let's say you walk into a restroom, or you want to use the restroom. Most times we don't need signs. We don't need to read signs to know, oh, this is the restroom. It's just the icon alone that tells us at a glance that this is a restroom and this is for a male and this is a restroom for a female. So when we look at so let's look at what icon really is. So we said icon is the act of creating visual symbols that communicate concepts at a glance. So icons are language independent. They are quick to understand. They are visually compact and emotionally intrusive. So here we say that it stripes away flaws and deliver meaning instantly. So let's think of a trash bin for delete or a floppy disk for save. So even though most people today haven't even used one, when we look at floppy disks, I don't think most of us have actually really used floppy disks while growing up. Well, we only saw it inside in textbooks while in school and the rest of it. So, but these symbols um, have become universal metaphors. So you only know when you see trash bin, you know that's for delete. When you see floppy disks, you know that is for save. All right. So let's move into looking at types of icons. Types of icons. So we have pictogram to be a type of icon. We say here pictogram is representational. It's a pictorial image of a word or thing. These are tangible objects that can be represented through a simple graphics. So example we have here, we can see printer. When you see this, you know that's for printer, which is for print. See this sign, it is for plane and airport. And when we see cigarette with this sign, it means no smoking of cigarette. So there are direct and instantly negotiable, recognizable. All right. So when we see this, we can recognize it. Doesn't matter wherever it is. All right. So let's look at the second one, ideogram. Ideogram. So that is the second one. It says here that ideogram is a symbolic image that represents an idea. So there are complex due to abstract or intangible things, such as feelings, actions, or concepts. All right. So here we have example. So we have example of not equal to two lines with a slash, and then we have a padlock here. Uh, when we see it, we know that this is for security. And then we have a light bulb for idea. All right, so this require more thoughts. Sorry about that. Okay, so we say that this requires more thought and are usually symbolic. All right, and let's look at the third one. We say arbitrary symbol. So what are these? So it says that an arbitrary symbol is an invented image that stands for word, thing, idea, action. So most of the times, the meaning of these icons should be learned. So, and due to the connection between the icons and the meaning, due that the connections and the icons and the meaning are not completely logical. So they only make sense once users learn their functions. So this can be a hamburger menu, a Bluetooth symbol, and an iOS share icon. So when we see these icons, we now know that, oh yes, most times, if not the fact that we've used an hamburger menu for mobile responsiveness and the rest of it, we wouldn't know that this pops out menu. But for the fact that it has been studied and we've learned their function, that's why users can actually know what this is for. So that's what we call an arbitrary symbol. So let's look at icon styles. So when we say icon styles, we have number one to be a field icon. So I noticed that most persons, while designing, they tend to be mixing up icons and the rest. When they use outline, they use field icons, they use sketch, they use a lot of icons, and then there is no consistency in an icon when they use it. So when we are using icons, let's know what we are using for. Let's be intentional about it. Okay, so we said that a field icon gives a sober and modern look and feel. There are icons with better scalability in terms of being legible in different sizes. As an image, they are very useful in cases where more emphasis is needed on. All right, so they are bold and modern. They are great for small sizes, and also they are used for emphasis. So the second one, so this is what a field icon looks like. Okay, so when we see this, a body or a when we see a content being filled and it's an icon, so this is how field icons looks like. So let's look at the second one, outline icon, or I can also call it line icon. So these are icons that uses line to build their shape. They have a playful look and feel, but they could be different or difficult to understand in small sizes. So in contrast with the field icons, they are mostly used in cases where less emphasis is needed. They are light and minimal. They are elegant but may struggle at small sizes, and they are great for toolbar or settings. So this is how a field or outline or line icon looks like. So just the line and a border line, or we can call it a stroke in design stroke. So this is how it looks like. So the next one says style or shade icon. So this icon can use multiple techniques like lines, gradients, and fills. So they give a lot of personality to your design. But same as line icons could be difficult to understand in small sizes. So these icons are rich, complex, and fun. They add personality but may hurt clarity in small sizes. So how does these icons look like? How do they look like? So these are what we call style or shade icons. So remember we said it can be fill, can be stroke, or it can be both. You can see they have different shades of colors and is being it has field and also as outline as a property. So what are the font sizes? What icon sizes, sorry? should should we use or are there? So we have a standard sizes. So depending on the requirements of your project, you may be required to set multiple sizes for your icons. The most common sizes are 12 pixel, 16 pixel, and 24. So, but um that could be variable according to your project uh project requirement. Mostly, what you should always think of when you are sizing your icons is your body text. So when you're looking at the text you are using um in conjunction with your icon, so they have to match in terms of proportion. All right. So I say here that they may go up to 48 or 6 or 96 pixel. And this type of icons are usually used for splash screen. All right. So they're usually used for splash screens. So avoid decimals in coordinating or sizing your icons. So stick to old numbers. So this is to prevent rendering issues. All right. And also this is how your sizes would basically look like. So we call it small size, medium size, large size, and extra large size. Right. So it's always a square, 12 pixel by 12 pixel, 16 by 16, not 12 by 14 or 12 by 8. So your icons must be square. So if you are using 10, it must be 10. If you are using 12, it must be 12. If you are using 16, it must be 16 for both sizes, depending on what you use. All right. So best practices when it comes to icons. So always work with components. So as a best practice, use components and repeating elements as components. So this allows for efficient updates because any changes made to the master component automatically reflect across all instances and ensuring consistency and saving time. So most times I notice we are not used to componentizing our elements or our shapes. So anytime you are working with icons or any repeating elements, use it as a component. So you use an instance of that component. So when we go into the practical part of it, to understand how this component, how it works, and why it saves you so much time, and also maintaining consistency across all screens. All right. So name and organize your icons. Okay. Name your icons and also stick to all lowercase, being separated by an underscore or a slash. Okay. So because when you separate it with a slash, it solves them into a folder. For an example here, when we have foundation slash icon slash email, so it's this email image is inside an icon and inside an icon folder, and this icon folder is also inside another folder which is a foundation. So if we look at the second one, foundation slash icon slash 12 pixel slash, this means that this is in the family of 12 pixel. So I can have another icon, then I name it this, but the name is going to change. So I can have an email icon. I can also have let's say a hamburger icon. I can also have an arrow icon. So these are going to change, but I will have to repeat my folder name, foundation icon. If it is 12 pixel size, then let it be under 12 pixel size. But if it is 16, I can also make it a foundation icon 16 pixel slash my icon name. So these are best practices that we have to follow as designers, because this is going to help us in our design life. Okay, so documentation. As we discussed last week, documenting your design process, your design decision is the most essential thing, because it's going to help your teammates, it's going to help the stakeholders, it's going to also help your the developers, and it's also going to help you in person when you are doing your design handoff to developers. Okay, so document any decision taken from the grid, to the style and sizes. So this with the purpose to keep consistency and effective communication with your team. Okay, so always document your icon style guidelines, that is your stroke width, corner radius, etc. Your sizes and use cases, and your naming conventions, and also your exports and formats. Is it in SVG or is it in PNG? So this keeps your handoff clean, and your developers will be happy to work with you. All right. So we said tips here, tips and best practices. Start from a mood board. We are going to talk about what a mood board is in the next topic. Um, this will carry visual tone into iconography. Stick to one style throughout a project. If you are using an outline, stick to outline. If you are using field, stick to field. All right. So use existing conventions where possible. Test for clarity and legibility in small sizes. All right. And also export both in SVG for web and PNG. Well, I'll always advise we always export in SVG when doing design handoff to our developers, because SVG is easier to use and it's also lighter than PNG. But well, you can also export in PNG depending on what your developer wants. All right, let's look at mode board, the last topic for visual for this segment, visual design foundation. So what is a mode board if you look at? So what is this mode board? So we say that a mode board is a collage of images, video frames, patterns, or text that convey a certain feelings at a glance. So mode boards are widely used in various applications of visual art, including branding, graphics, and fashion, cinemas, and industrial and interior design. So mode boards are not only used in UI UX, it's used in our everyday life. Most times when we want to go and sew clothes, we usually go in to find mode boards. We might not know at a time what is being called, but it is called mood board. All right. So even when we want to sew clothes, we want to reach out to tell us. Our tailors do have their pamphlets, the booklet that they show all those fashions and the rest. So that's a mood board. So it is also used in different industries. Okay. So a mood board is like your emotional compass. So it's curated visual collections of photos, colors, fonts, textures, illustrations, UI samples, and sometimes even sound, depending on what industry is being used. So why mood board matter in UX? So mood board helps your team visually express the tone and value of the product, also help them in aligning and on aesthetic direction early, and also to brainstorm and share inspirations, and also to communicate to non-designers with clarity. It also helps your team avoid future design misalignment. All right, so they are helpful during product iteration, rebranding, major design pivots, and personnel development. Okay, um, so let's see when we are to create this mood board. When can we create this mood board? So we say that during define or iterate phase of your design process. So when designing a new product, you need a mood board. And when giving a fresh visual direction to an existing product, you also need a mood board. Most time, the existing product can also be a mood board. All right. So when collaborating with non-design stakeholders, so we're looking at content managers, product owners, you need a mood board. So why do we need, when we say when collaborating with non-design stakeholders, when you are telling the product owners about your design decision, it is best to show them what led to your decision, or why you want to take this product this way and why you are taking this route. So that's when mood board come in. All right. So how do we create this mood board that we're talking about? Step one, if you're looking at a new product, define the product brief. Even if you want to iterate, even want to um redesign a product, I'll still advise you define the product brief. Okay. So your goal here is to write a short and clear product views that answers the following questions. What does this product do? What emotions should it trigger in users? And what value or philosophies are we aligning it with? Okay. So if you have taglines, slogans, mission statements, or brand values, use those. And if you don't, well, use your design goals or target personas. This is going to help you define uh, your product, what the product is all about. All right. So the second step is to derive key concepts. So when we say derive key concepts, you're talking about words with feelings. Okay. So from the product view, you want to extract concepts from the product view. So this we say these are single words or short phrases that describes the vibes you are going for. So imagine your product is a budgeting app for teenagers. So from your brief, your key concepts might be um, it has to be fun, it has to be trustworthy, it has to be empowering, it has to be approachable, and also your UI interface has to be playful. So these words are good. So use them. This will also help you guide your visual decisions. The number third step, or yes, step three is collect photography or illustrations. All right. So now we hunt for images that feels like your keywords. So for an example, from the previous one, we said empowering. So for empowering, you might look for images or illustration that someone might be standing in a sunlight confidently. It might be a fist bump, or it might be a simple graduation photo. So these images don't have to be directly related to your product. So, but they need to visually express the concept, what you are trying to let your um, product users know. So, where can we get inspirations, or where can we get photos? We can use Pinterest, on Splash, Pixel, Behance, Dribble. We have a lot of it. Okay, so step four is collect UI or design inspiration. So now this is where we have to make our grounds, or we have to set the mood for um, the main thing. So this is where we now bring in website applications, font sets, fonts and color, icon sets, font and color palette that matches the mood um, of our photography or our keywords. Now, website has to be website that matches your product, has to be web application that matches if you are doing with application. Then icon sets you are going to use in during the process of you designing, and what font will you be using, and what are the color palettes. All right. So example here, you say if your keyword is playful, so look for apps that uses bright colors, rounded fonts, friendly illustrations. So you can write down notes like, I like how this website uses both fonts to create energy. So this is to help you that when you once you now bring in this let's say application or a website, when you go back to it, you'll be sure of what it was for. Oh, was this inspiration for the font? Was it for icons? Was it for colors? So the second thing you might write is, this color palette feels soft, calming, and it fits are approachable, which was the keyword you used when you are looking at your concepts. All right. So these steps helps bridge the gap between abstract emotions and concrete design. So your step five is to choose color. Okay, still on the UI. So which has to do with color. So what color appears again and again in your references, and which one feels right for your brand. So when you are choosing color, don't just make choose between one or two colors. Sorry, one color. Choose between 2 to 3, 5 colors that communicate your concept. So this is going to help your stakeholders, your design team make a choice. Because if you only present them with one color choice, well, there's no way they can make decisions from there. But when you present them with 2 to 5, 3 to 5, 4, and more color references, so this is going to help your brand or help the team choose wisely. And also when it comes to typography, so what font style keeps showing up? Is it serif or sans serif? Is it bold or light? Is it rounded or sharp? So when you are looking for typography, let it not just be one. Make choices, okay, so that there will be a decision that will be made. So look, you might look for a font type that is empowering, that is trustworthy, that is playful. So when choosing font, be intentional on the font you are choosing. So other elements you might be bringing into your UI is icon style, illustration styles, UI elements like buttons or cards. So this is going to help build your visual language. All right. So step 6 is make variations. Most of us, when we design, we only design a particular flow with the first concept that comes in our mind, the first user flow that comes to our mind. When we design, make variations, think of the more than two options or more than two ways you can actually approach a particular problem. Right? Say don't stop at one mood board, try two or three. So each one should explore a different direction, different image set, different color tone or font pairing, and label them clearly and write out what concept is this board based on, what are the strengths and weaknesses. So this is going to give your strength or stakeholders option to choose from. All right. So step number 7 is review and finalize. So show your mood board to your team or stakeholders and talk them through one of them. So it could be mood board A communicates youthfulness, show bright colors and quickie icons. And mood board B leans more towards professionalism, using muted tones and minimal design. So when you are making this, ask questions like which one feels more aligned with the brand and which one would make our users feel most at home. And also, when you are asked this question, choose one that represents your shared vision and that becomes your final mood board. And that's become your final mood board. So best practices is always start with a product brief. Okay. So no brief equals no clear vision. So iterate at least 2 to 3 variations. It will help explore multiple directions and be specific with keywords. Vouch word leads to vouch decisions or designs, and also collect 5 to 8 visual references per concept. So more options is going to actually give you more clearer directions. Write notes on each inspiration, like why did you pick it? What does this represent? And also document everything so your team knows your thought process. So now let's jump right into Figma. Let's see how we've talked about design, all the parts of design, the elements of design, the foundation of visual design. Now let's look at how do we create one practically. How do we create one practically? Please do tell me when you can see my Figma board. Please, I hope we can follow in. We are following. If you have any question, you can ask in the process. But when you are asking your question, please do well to carry your hand up. All right. If you see my Figma link, please. Oh, shit. All right, guys, hold on. Let me share my screen again. All right, team, can you see my Figma link or sorry, my Figma file? All right, so let's begin. I hope we can still hear me. Please, we can unmute. Let me be sure we are following. Can unmute to say don't use the chat box.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
All right, thank you, madam. So let's look at what's so we talked column, we talked about icons, we talked about typography, we talked about grid system. So first of all, I'm going to start with the foundation. What I start first with, anytime I'm designing. So I start with my grid system. Basically, we design for we always design for um desktop and mobile. Okay, so we are going to have two grid system, which is going to be our desktop and our mobile. So we go to our frame and then get our desktop frame. So we always use your desktop, which has a size 1440. So that is always your width. So remember when we talked about calculating for this our grid size and the rest of it. All right. So also practice naming your frame. Okay, so I'm going to call this grid. Well, let's say let me name it desktop grid. Um, yep. So let's name it desktop grid. So we this is where we get our it's called layout guide in Figma now. At the time it was always called grid. So now it's called layout guide. So you get your layout guide. So first of all, we'll do for our columns and also we'll do for the rows. So I will take my column first. So let's unmute, let's talk. So what did I say our count should be when we are looking at column on a desktop? What should always be your count?
12.
Okay, 12. Thank you. So we'll make it 12. Let me bring this up. So it should always be straight. Okay, it should always be straight. This helps such that if you should expand this, it expands with it. But we are not expanding anything though. But so keep it on stretch. And also our margin should be what? Uh, did I talk about margin? No. So basically, when I design on Figma, I most people uses 80, most people uses 60 as a margin, most people uses 100. I think that's most designs that I've seen. That's the margin they use. Personally, I love my margin being 100. Okay, I always like my margin to be 100. So what should be our gutter? Our gutter. What's our gutter? What did we say our gutter should be? Let me see who can still remember. Is there anybody that can still remember what our gutter should be? Anybody? What should be our gutter size? Nobody. I'm going to call someone. Oh. Chidera. Let me see who and who is following. Chidera, what should be our gutter size when we are designing for desktop? desktop view. All right, so what should it be our gutter size? All right, sorry guys, network is really on my nerve today. 20 or you said Pedelis, you said 20 or 24. Okay, Zinab, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. You did not actually tell us what the gutter size should be, but you said we should use multiples of 4. So we can use 12, 16, or 24. So probably 24.
Okay. All right, so yes, I didn't. So you can use 20 or 24. So I prefer using my gutter size to be 24. Okay, so when you are done with that, yes, you can. So this is what you do when you are done designing this. Well, you can now duplicate it and then change from this to your row. So for row, your row should always be on top, okay? And your count should be, well, I like using 1000. It can't finish 1000 though, can it? Offset, I don't need anything for offset. My height, use 24 too. And your gutter, hmm, gutter, I like reducing my gutter when it comes to the row part of it. All right, so now we are done with, so now we are done with the desktop part of it. Now, so let's bring in our mobile. We always do this for two. So let's bring in the mobile. So for mobile, I like using iPhone 13 and 14, which has 390 in terms of width. And well, height doesn't matter because we can always increase the height. So we will now we'll now create a guide for it or a grid. So we'll make this row first. So for count, our count for a mobile, I like using 4. So our stretch still remains stretch. And a margin for this, uh, 16. Okay. Our gutter height, our gutters can still remain. So you can use 16 or you can use 24. So I prefer using 16 for this. So remember to rename it. So you can call it okay, let's name it this way. Let's name it this way, grid slash mobile. Okay. So then you can also say mobile slash column. And let's do the same thing for the row. For the row, we'll make it still the same thing, 1000 to the top. Your offset, well, 0. Gutter can still be, so let's make gutter. Okay, no, we can make gutter 24. Then our height 24 too. Or let's see. 32. All right. So when you are done with this, remember you copied it, so you have to rename the last part of it to row. Okay, so let's rename our desktop too to that. Okay, so there we go. So the question is, how do we reuse this? How do we reuse this? Do we just, oh, at a time we'll now make this, now duplicate this, and then go to our design to design? So how do we reuse this grid system? Because most of us, what we do is, oh, when we do, we now duplicate the screens and then use it and then change the content. And so, but what is the best pattern to reuse our grid system? All right, GBK, go ahead.
Good evening, please. I'm not asking a question. I wanted to ask a question. The grid system that you did, the top part, what is the purpose of the second grid that you designed, and how do you calculate it? You are putting
Sorry,
1,000.
I can't hear you.
Okay, I said I'm asking a question. Can you hear me clearly? Hello, can you hear me? Hello.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. Network is really messy over here. So at GBK, you wanted to say something. Please go ahead.
I wanted to ask a question. Please, can you put on your screen back?
Yeah, it's coming up. Don't worry. All right,
All
go
right.
ahead.
The second screen. The second screen.
The role.
Yes, that one that you're pointing at. I don't know how you come by with it. Like the top section, what is the importance of that second grid? And how do you come about 1,000 can't da, 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 da. I don't understand that part. Both for the mobile
Okay.
and the desktop.
The that part is what I cannot explain, Sha. But
Okay, but you
don't
understand what
worry,
I'm
don't
trying
worry.
to say.
Yes,
Okay.
I get your point. So
Thank
this
you.
is why I use this. Remember, when you are designing for desktop, you always have your header here. R- You can stay unmuted, please.
All right.
So this is my header section. Let's assume.
Okay.
Okay. So you can see where it starts from and where you can then observe how my this thing is. It's I follow the grid system that I'm using. So such that the next time I want to have maybe an arrow section, which is after our header, you can now see maybe it can take from there to somewhere like this. So this is why I use it without there is no margin anyway when it comes to rows. Now the reason why I use 1000 is if I drag, it still continues. I don't think I can drag this in enough that 1000 will finish. Okay, so this is the thought process of why I use 1000 when it comes to roll, so that I don't have to be increasing the roll anytime I want to design or do any other thing. Does that answer your question?
It doesn't answer, but I'll just take it like that. I don't understand. What I'm saying is, why
Which
is
one?
that the second screen? I still don't get it. Why is that second grid? Like, are we going to be designing both on the first grid and the second grid?
Okay. So this is my column and this is my row. This helps me arrange my things this way. It helps me arrange this, but this helps me arrange my text most times. The rows helps me in arranging my text and also in arranging most elements, because as I said earlier, let's look at this. Let me still use my header for an example. So I'm okay. I hope your question is not if I'm going to be designing differently for each of the screens.
Yes.
Oh, no. I'm trying to explain something. We'll go there. That's when I was asking, how do we use this when it comes to design? So this is just for our component set. Like when we're talking about design foundation. So this is when we are creating our grid system to use for the design. This is not a frame for our design.
Okay.
I Yes, I hope that's what you meant. Now I got your
Mm,
question.
okay.
Okay, so let's proceed. So is there anybody that can give me an answer to how we feel? How can we reuse this? How can we make it? Let me ask this question. Let me be careful of how I ask it, because I can ask it and then answer the same question at the same time. All right, Gift, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. We receive it in styles.
We save it in style.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Gift. So the question is Gift, and you can still unmute. If I save it as a component, can I not reuse it? Remember, components are for reusable elements.
Yes, you can. But I've not used it as a component. I've always saved it.
Okay. Fidelis, the question is how can I reuse this grid system? How can I reuse this grid system after designing it like this in my style guide? Do I have to be duplicating the screens to use it while? So and Gift says we can do it by creating a style. And I was asking a question, can we not also use it as a component? So let's okay, because of time, I would have loved also to try the two, but you can go and try the components part. So personally, please hold on. My network is really messing me up now. So personally, I use it as a style. I create a style from it. Okay, I create a style from it. Please hold a minute. So personally, I create a style from it. All right. So How do we do that? How do you create a style from this? So first of all, you select on a frame, then scroll down to where we have um hmm, scroll down to where you selected the layout grid from, and select on your action. No, not your plus, sorry. Select on apply style, click on the next action, the plus, so you name it. Remember the name we named it here. We said grid slash desktop slash column. All right. So better still, you can just duplicate, or you can copy your name, the name from here, and then paste it. Okay. And then what is it for? You can decide to leave this, but your description, you can always write your description. And then you now create style. You do the same thing for your role, and then name it role. All right, repeat the same thing for your mobile. All right. Is there any question so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Please, I want to know what is the gutter of this mobile grid?
What's the
The gutter.
gutter? We said
Yes, please.
you can use 20, you can use 24. So I think personally I use 24 for this gutter here. So how do you check that? Okay, yes, I use 20. So you can use 20, you can use 24. I think on the row part, that's where I use 24. So this, how do you know? How do you use your gutter and the rest? This is, you use it when, like, you decide how do you actually want to arrange your stuff. How do you want to arrange it? How do you want your interface to look like? What is your padding that you want to give? When I say padding, the distance between an element, one element to another. So how do you want it to be? So that's what will determine what gutter size you want to use. Does that answer your question, Gibbs?
Yes, sir.
All right. So I was saying, how do we reuse this? So if you look at let me move this stop. Okay, no. So I like naming my file. So I will name my first page as design. Okay, no, as grid system. So my second page is going to be, I'm going to call it UI design. So this is where we do our design. So now I'm going to bring in my frame. Let's start with, remember the frame you created a grid system for? It was iPhone 13 and 14. So I'm going to bring in my, so if I want to bring in my grid system here, how do I bring it out? Instead of going back to, let's call this home. So instead of going back here to be adding my grid system again, so what I do here is I come to apply style, then the grid system I created is going to appear here. So this is what I created, grid slash desktop, which has our column and our row. Then grid slash mobile, which has also our columns and our row. So what do I want to use? Is it the column that I want to use now to design? Then I can now bring in my column. When once I just click on there, it's going to appear. So basically, another way we can, okay, let's say we want to design like 10 or 5 frames. So I can just duplicate this and then select all, then still come to my layer and then do the same thing. It's going to appear in all of the screens that we have there. All right. Is there any question? Do you understand? So the same thing goes with the same thing goes to desktop. Okay, if we bring in our desktop, let's still call it home too. Yeah. Yes, so you apply style by still going to your layout and then checking your grid slash desktop. So this is the reason why I told you about folders. So now I had to tell it, oh, this is because if let's assume that where I was creating it, I did not signify which one was for desktop, which one was for mobile. We'll now see that I'll be testing it one after another. I'll try column first. Oh, sorry, this is not for mobile. Then I'll now go to and then be trying one after another. So it is actually going to waste time. Okay, so when doing this, make sure that you name it very well. So the same thing goes to if I want to apply my role, I can just click and then apply my role at the same time. So I can also um, detach it if I don't want it. I can detach it. Or let's say, well, there is something I was supposed to do. Let's say it is not what I wanted. I'll just come here, then go back. This is going to take me back to the properties. This is taking me back to the properties. So now I can now switch here and then click on here and then edit it to fit into what I actually want it to be. Remember, when you edit it here, it's going to affect all other grid system because remember you are using a style for it, which means you've created a style for your row grid system, your column grid system, which is adaptive in all screen. Okay. So do we have any question? We have created our grid system now for desktop and for mobile. All right, you can also edit it here. You can see how I arrange this that under my grid system. You can see where I am. I'm towards my right hand side where we have the properties, where we have the shell. That's where my icon is. Okay, that's where my mouse pointer is. So you can now see layout guide style, which has my grid system, and under it I have my desktop and I have my mobile arranged under the same under a particular a specific folder named grid, and also under my desktop I have rows and I also have column. Okay, so this is why we use an underscore or we use a forward slash. Okay, we can use an underscore or we can use a forward slash. I mostly use a forward slash when naming my component or when creating a style or doing any other thing. All right. Do we have any other question before we proceed to the next one? Okay, Mr. Yemi, when it's time for question, I'll attend to this. Okay. All right. So I'm going to look into what we call let's look into buttons. Let's look into buttons. Now, how do we create our buttons? Because I noticed most of us, when I was reviewing some of our designs, the approach we take to create our button is quite well. What do I say? People uses that method, but it is not effective. It is not the best practices. So what makes you a good product designer is you actually use the best practices in whatever you do, be it your button, your typography, and every other thing. Okay. So how do we create our button? How do you create your button? Let me see. I'm going to call names because I actually need this. How do you create your button? Chinuedu. Chinuedu, how do you create your button? I gift, I'll come to you. Let me start from Chinuedu first. I need two persons for this. So Chinuedu and gift. Chinuedu. All right, Chinuedu, can you hear me? Please, you can unmute. How do you create your button? Okay, while we are waiting for Chinwendu, so gift, go ahead. How do you create your own button? What's the first step? How do you start?
Okay, the first step is I click on the test, this
Okay.
test icon. Yes, I'll
Okay.
just write button or any log anything I want to write, but I usually use button.
Okay.
All
So
right, I
that's all.
will. That is the first thing, yes.
Okay, proceed.
Okay, I will put it on auto layout.
Okay.
Okay, I will put 12 by this side,
What side?
padding 12. Yeah, both
What padding?
side, left
Is it
and
your
right
left?
padding.
Exact. So let's use the terminology as we are product designers. Okay. So left and right padding will have 12. So your bottom and top padding will have what?
16 I use.
It will have 16.
So,
You said your top and right padding will have what?
yes, top and buttons and bottom is 16.
Okay. Okay.
Then
So
height. Let me see the height. The height, I will include, okay. All right.
so the
Then
height
I
is
will,
51.
the height, I use 48.
You use 48.
Yes.
Okay. All right. You use 48. And then all right. Okay. So that's how you create
Then
your bottom.
I'll, yes, I'll add fill and other things.
Okay. So
The
let me just
edges.
add, yeah, let me just add a stroke for this. Let me
Okay.
add a stroke for this for now. We'll come back to it. So let me keep it here. So I'm going to rename this as gifts. Okay. So any other person? Let me see. I saw some chats coming in. Auto layout and the padding. Okay, Fidelis. Let me hear from you. This is the last person.
Alright, can you hear me?
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Are we going to use this button or just my first student?
No, just give me your first your steps on how. Forget about the type of button.
Okay, just type
Okay.
button auto layout
Okay.
auto
Continue.
layout. Yes, and we can do a hue of white. Then the button should be black.
Okay, my field should be white.
Yes,
Okay,
then
I
the
think
text should
basically
be
what
black.
we would have done before now would have been creating colors. But though I will use this first. We'll come back to that.
And also increase the radius to let's say 5.
I'll increase the what?
Radius to 5.
The radius to 5.
Yes.
Okay. So that's all.
The I think we should increase the left and the right padding again a little bit to be more
To
vibrant.
what?
Uh,
Give me a number
maybe
a value. To what?
let's add an additional two each. I don't know the initial
Addition additional 8.
two.
Okay, that will make it 10.
Yes. Then the radius.
Okay, so your bottom and top and bottom padding.
That I think that's okay. That's okay.
That's
Then
okay.
you use the but
Okay, so
the
this is
I think the radius is not enough. You can increase it again.
okay. So let's say I use 12.
Okay.
Okay, so now let's look at something together. So what is the height of a button? What should a height button be? The sizes of a button for a mobile, for a also for a desktop, what do you think the height should be? What is the height, a standard height for mobile and for desktop? Anybody? So Gift says here the height is 48, and from Fedili's own, his own is 45. Okay. So what is the height? What should the height be? Then I'm going to just tell us the exact. I just want one person to talk about it. One person, let me hear who can talk about that. Then I'll just give one. I'll just give my standard, like what I use and what is also standard too. Anybody? Mobile is what size? What's the height for a
I think
mobile button?
around 40, 48 or so, 48 or 45.
48. Okay, so for desktop, we'll go.
So for desktop, it should be bigger than that.
So what is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So for font sizes, it is for font sizes. So let's say, so for mobile, okay. So let me just sketch it out here. Coming. I don't know why this is still in. So for mobile, and also okay. No, let's do it this way. Let's say button sizes. So your button sizes should be, we have, let me take this way. We have large, okay, and then we also have medium size, and then I also always like to have a small size, because there's some place that medium sizes button will not come into. All right. Okay, so gifts. Let me come back to this button before I go back to the button sizes I use. So gifts, you says you use a padding of 16, and you now um and then you now or how shall I call it? You now bypass your padding. So there is no need for this padding, because if I should reduce this padding to 0, it's not going to change anything to this height. So this height padding is why we put in padding, is to increase the height of whatever we are using. Please hold on a bit. All right, guys. Sorry about that. So that's gifts, as I was saying. So if you put 16 here and then you now bypass it by giving it, calling a height for it. So there was no need for this your padding. Okay. And best personally, okay, I'm going to talk about it later. So you did not, okay, you said 12 year and then you did not talk anything about year. And Fedilis, well, year was 10 and then 8. If you put 8 here, this gives you 45. All right. So for my large size, 56 should be your part, it should be your height. Okay, let's do it this way. So your height for your large icon should be 56. Then for your for padding, your padding should be 24. So this your padding is padding left and right. And then your font size should always be 18. So your font size will always be 18, let me use T here. So, and your padding is 24. Your height for your large button is 56. All right, so let's talk about our medium. So for your medium button height should always be 48. Okay? And your padding should be 20. We are talking about padding. This is your padding left and right, not your padding top. Because if you are talking about padding top and bottom, we will not be giving it and will not be giving it height. Okay? Will not be giving it height. But since we are talking about for the padding, we are talking about your left and right. Okay, so your font size for this should always be 16 pixel. 16. So if you look at the medium, your medium height should be 40. Your padding left and right should be 16. And your feet, that's your font size. Your font size should be 14. All right, so let's create this as a button now. I hope we are following. Please do signify that you are following.
Yes, we are following.
Okay, so first step is I saw most of us creating a button. I'm going to use two styles to create a button. So most of us, what I saw us do was we wrote button, and then we now brought in a rectangle. And then this is our button. We did not even group it too. We just allow it that way. So let me, for contrast sake, let me increase this. So now if I should probably, as I'm designing, I now come and said, oh, let me shift my button to this side. So the button field is going to leave my text unless I now have to group it. Unless I have to group it and then carry it, which is not effective, which is not well a good practice. Okay, so this is number one buttons, the way I see most of us design a button. Another way most of us do it is after designing, we now bring in a frame. Where's my text? My text have run. Okay, we now bring in a text or a frame. We now bring in a frame. Does this work too? Okay, then when we are done with that, we now rearrange this by putting the text inside the frame. And then now I'm going to show us the the disadvantage, because this method does not have any advantage. Then let me create another button. So let me create another button with an auto layout and then put a fill. Okay, so I'm just using this for an example. So when we are talking about creating our button, we are going to look at the standard way of doing it. So this, I'm just going to use this, and then let's say, okay. So now the question is, now when you create this, now let's imagine you are designing, or you want to write a text that is bigger than the button. Okay, a text that is bigger than the button. So let's say we write what button? So let's say enroll now. Okay, so we can now see how awkward this look. So that means I'll have to personally be adjusting this. And while adjusting this, okay, when adjusting this, is now going to change my padding. So the distance from my the distance from my text to the left side is now going to change, and it's not going to be consistent with my other button, which leads to inconsistency. Okay. So another thing is, let's say I also use enroll now here. Okay, 1L. Enroll now with, let's say, 1, 2, 3, to make it show how serious it is. So we do the same thing here, 1, 2, 3. So that means the same thing. I have to be adjusting this. I have to be adjusting this manually. Now, when we look at the second example, so the second example, let's use large for an example. We said our large height should be what? 56. So we make it 56. Then our padding, right, and this left should be 24. So we make it 24. Making it 24 means your width size will have to be hog. Don't change your width size to fixed width. Let it always be hog content. So when we say hog content is now going to obey this, is going to follow our padding. But if we should, let me duplicate this, because I like showing you what is going to be the precaution of. So let's say we take this to be fixed, and this is hog. So let's say our enroll now, and then we now do the same thing to enroll now. Yeah. So we now see the difference between these two texts, but the two of them are still auto layout. The frame 2 is an auto layout. The frame 3 is an auto layout. So let me rename this to be button button 1, 01, and 02. So our button 1 is a frame and our button 2 is also a frame. So but one is following the standard, but the other is not. All right. So is there any questions so far before we proceed?
Yes. Please, this last
Right.
button, what did you put? I don't know. Why is you said it's on what? Is it on feet? What did you say?
The button 01.
The last one, Abby? I don't even. Yeah, the 01, yes.
Okay. So what I did here was my width is changed to fixed. Okay, which is a wrong practices. So when practicing or when creating a button, your width should always be hog. Your height is now the one that will take your fix. So because why we are using your height is not going to change throughout. Okay, your height is not going to change, whereas your width can be adaptive depending on whatever text is being used. On whatever the text is being used, your text, your button has to be adaptive to it. All right, do you understand, Gift?
Yes, please.
All right. Okay, so this is our button. When we look into, I think our next class will be looking into design system. So that's where we are going to look deeply into our button types and also our icons, the rest of it, and how to arrange them. So this class was just to conclude our design foundation class, the theory part of it. So in our next class, we'll be looking at how to create a comprehensive design system, which we're looking at this particular set of buttons, and also there's different sizes, large, medium, and small, how to actually use them. And also, if you look at buttons, we always have our buttons to be primary. We have primary, we have secondary, we have tertiary. That tertiary is like cancel and the rest. Then we have ghost button. We have destructive button, which most times is often read. So that has to do with our delete and any destructive action you want to take. And then also we also have our icon buttons. So that's like we are talking about back, we are talking about like, and you see those icons people use for feedback. And in some applications, when you see an icon with an icon, a button with just an icon, so that's just an icon button. Okay, and so that is what we'll be looking at in our next class. I have to stop here for now. So when we look at also, we always have a background that is active in terms of button. We also have default. We also have hover. We have pressed. We have disabled button. We have outline button. We have text button. We have icon only button. Okay, so these are types of buttons we have. Okay, have I missed anything? No, no, no. Well, yes, we have text. So we have different types of buttons when it comes to buttons. So we have types, we have button states. So when we're talking about state, that's when we are talking about hover and pressed and the likes of it. Okay. So yes. And so yes, goodness, you don't have to miss next class for anything. So people that will miss next class will miss the basic foundation of having a unique and stylable interface. Okay. So let me look at the next one before we proceed, or before our next class, before we call it a day. So I'm going to talk about icon. So when I talk about icon, I use Iconify for my icons plugin. That's my icon plugin, Iconify. So for Iconify, remember when we say there are different types of icon: field, and then we have outline as an icon. Okay. So I'm going to use we are going to see how to actually use this. Please hold on, it's taking a bit of a time. Let's see if it does not want us to do today. Okay, since this icon is taking us, there's always so okay, it has come up. So another way you can always get your icon is going through your asset. Even though you've not imported icons into, you can always go to your asset. The updated Figma interface has made it possible that we can get components without having to go into extra plugins or the rest. So let's say I use user for an example, or let's say profile for an example. So we have two different types here. We have, I'm going to well, goodness, Iconify is also in a component. So it's also a component, depending on how the user wants to. So user in Iconify, it will tell you, do you want to import it as a frame, or do you want to import it as a component? So you decide. Or do you actually want to use it to get the code? Well, and then customize it your own way. This is for developers. So Iconify does that. Well, I don't know about Usavix. I don't know about that plugin. Okay, so I personally I use Iconify. So we can see that we have three different icons here. We have your outline, which is a thin outline. We also have a thick outline. We also have the fill, and then we also have the other one we call style, which has a fill and also the outline. So basically, what I do is I pick one, I pick the other one. So how do we pick multiple? So select multiple icons here. So we select one. I pick my field of the same structure, and then I also pick three, and then I import. Before I import my component or my icon, what I do is I create a frame first. All right. Then I now import. Reason why I create frame first is because if I import it without a frame, they are going to go to a different location, which I have to come and search. What if I had 10,000 for frames inside, 10,000 designs inside? So I now have to be looking at where did I design, or where did I create my icon and keep, or where did I import it and keep. So I like putting it inside a frame first. All right. Then later on, I can now rearrange it inside my frame, my icon frame. Remember, we are going to look into this when we look at our in our next class. Okay, in our next class. All right. So once I'm done importing this, remember I imported this as a component. So what I will do is I'll combine as variant. So when I combine this as variant, what happened that is that it takes it as component. It calls it component one. If you look at my right hand side, wait, just follow my cursor, please. It calls it component one. So what I do is I rename this to user, or I can rename it to profile, anyhow I want it. Then I will personally go by one after another, rename this outline. Okay, rename this as field, and then rename this as style. Okay, and call it style. So the reason why I do this is, if I want to use this, remember when you are designing for mobile, let's say a mobile application, your active state of an icon is usually a field. Mostly is mostly a field icon, and then with the primary color, and then maybe and also an active state, something to indicate yes that it is active. If you don't use that too, all right. So it is always a field because that's where we want to emphasize more. Remember when we talked about iconography in some minutes ago, we said when we are using field icon is when we want to put more emphasis on that. So we are trying to tell users that, oh yes, this particular this is where you are currently on. This is your active state. All right. So I mostly I use two icon types, but what I want to explain something. So I use three here. So let's say I want to um let's create a button, or let me just pick a button from the already. No, let's just create a button. So let's create a button. Yeah. Um. So call it label. Call it label. I'll put it. Then I'll now go to my assets. And then in my assets, I always like filling my created in this file, so that I don't other things will not just come and then confuse me and then make it so much bulky. So I'll now bring in the instance of this. So create insert an instance. So when I select it, I'm now going to put it inside my icon, my button. So let's give it a color of white. In our next class, you will see the best possible way to be doing this. So I'm doing this manually. All right, Fidelis, go ahead.
All right. And for the icons, what the iconify you use, I think like it doesn't have the filter to choose if it's going to be an cute icon or outlined or bold. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Please say that again. Sorry, I couldn't get you properly.
Okay, I said because you used iconify just now to show us an example.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that it doesn't have the filter feature to allow us to pick if you want to use a particular icon like
Okay.
cube
Okay. Okay.
icon
Okay.
outline. Yeah.
Okay. So okay. Yes, that's true. They don't have that filter option. Well, when you doing usability testing, you would have done that to signify and design how it look like. Okay. Well, that's true. So you manually search for it. You manually search for it. I was just lucky that I saw the same design. So most of you use the plugins you want to. I'm going to share a document with us sooner or later. That has my I the document has design inspiration and the rest, and also where you can get mockups and where you can get plugins too, where you can also get icons too. So I'm going to share that too. You are going to have different icons plugins that you can use. Most times you don't just use one, you use different icons just to make sure that it meets your need. All right. So yes, Iconify doesn't have that filter option. So why in the process? So let's do this. So I'm going to change my white color to something, let's say blue. Let me change it to blue. Let me change it to blue because I want to use a fill of white. Okay. Then I like corner radius. So give it. And then remember, this is your height should be 48. I'm using the medium size. And then I'm going to make this 20. All right. So your in between, that's the spacing, your padding between this can remain 8. Okay. Yeah, I like using two button, like two icons type. I'm going to, in the next class, I'm going to explain this mostly. So I said when we are using this, our font size should be what? Who can still remember what our font size should be? So for our height, our large,
16.
our font size for height, for large,
Okay, sorry.
18.
yeah, 18. So you can now see that your font size, it marries this. It marries your text, your icon and your this thing marries together. There is none that is bigger than which anyone. Okay. So most times most people use this. Let me see something. Most people use this 20, yeah. I think 20 might be perfect for this too. Can use 20, 24, but it should not be bigger than those. Okay, so this, let's see something. All right. So you can see that marries each other. I'm using 20 for the icons. Uh, sorry, please, let me just round up so that you can ask your question when it's time for question. I'm going to give room for that. All right. So I was saying I like using two, but let me just remove one first. We'll talk about, let me not complicate things for us now. So I'm going to talk about why I decided to use that in our next class. All right. So I'm going to make this 8, and this should always be Hawk. All right. So if I now, let's assume we are on the home section part of it. Okay. Let me create, yes, let's just use this for an example. So we are on the home. So in as much I want to show users that yes, that you are on the active state. So instead of me going back to, so let me, hold on, give me a minute. Let me rename this to button. Okay. So instead of me to go back to Iconify and be looking for a field state button, I'll just have to come here, click on it, and then choose field state. So remember our primary color is what we are using. Let's use a more active color. This color looks too dull. Well. Coming. Let me look for a more color that does not look dull. Okay. All right. So this is a field state, and this is me trying to tell someone that this particular state is not a field, like it's not an active state. Sorry, active state. So I can use the black here. All right. So you can use black here. Okay. So in our next class we'll look at this comprehensively. All right, and then we'll get better understanding of this. All right. So let me not let's stop there for today. So any questions? So goodness, you asked the question. You said, can I use outline and fill icon the same time? I think I've answered your question already while explaining that no, you cannot. So if you are using outline, use outline. The only time I'm using a field icon is when you are trying to emphasize to users that this particular place is an active state. Like this is where the user is. That's when you can now use a field icon. Right. So always be consistent with your icon usage across all screens. So this works better when we are talking about a dashboard. Our dashboard menu, when design dashboard menu, you have your write-ups, home, you can have dashboard, you can have user settings and the rest on your dashboard menu bar. Okay, so this works mostly with that when you are using that, and also in other interfaces too. Okay, so be consistent in your icon usage. All right, any other question? Oh goodness, does that answer your question?
Yes, you answered it. Thank you, sir. Good
All
evening.
right, good evening, goodness. All right, any other question? Uh, any other question?
Sir, please, can we get the record? Now was not stable. Please.
Yeah, the recording is always on what? Oh, sorry, on YouTube now.
Okay, on YouTube.
Yes, it's there on YouTube. You can always search CodeCamp 5.0 intermediate class. So anytime you
Oh,
miss a class, you can always go there. Then also on your LMS, let me show you guys this. On your LMS too, you can also get it there. Okay, let me show you how to get it, because I notice most of us we don't can also get it there. All right. Any other question as I show us how we uses this too? All right. So I'll take that as no. Okay. 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 All right, Mr. Yemi. So when we are talking about creating a new file and a new page, let me still go back to Figma. So creating a new page. These are pages. Okay. In Figma, looking at your right hand side where we have file, you can see there's a label that says pages. Okay, so these are pages. This is me creating new pages. I can create as multiple pages as I want. Okay. But when it comes to a file, I'm using I'm using Figma app, the desktop version. I'm not using the web app. Okay, so when it comes to file, there's a addition button here. If I click on it, it's going to open a new file for me, and it's going to tell me what do I want. Is it a design? Is it fake jam? Is it slide, or is it boss? So if I want to create a design that is Figma, I can also click on there and it's going to open a new file for me. So this is called a file, and this is and then clicking on addition here, these are pages. So that answer your question, Mr. Yemi. Okay, so let me show you how to. Okay, so let me show. All right, Mr. Zinab, go ahead.
all right, sir. If you are using the free Figma, can you actually create a new file? I think we only have one file.
No, no, Free Figma gives you three options. Like, I can create it in three, like just three pages. Then okay, and also yes, new file. You can create a new file in a free Figma, but you only create it as a draft and in a different and also in a different project name. You can't create it inside another the same project name. I think that's true. That's how it is. So, but I'm going to show us how to in our next class before we start. So come early. So I'm going to show us how you can get different, like how you can get multiple pages in the same file, and how you can also get new more files your in your team, in a team. Yes, how you can create more files in a team. All right. So in our next class, I'll do that. That will be the first thing we'll do. So it's first come first serve. So if you come early, I will do it during that time we are waiting for others to join. Okay. All right. So I that should be all right. So let me show you us this. So So when you come to my classroom, okay, when you open your classroom, this is how it is. So you're going to see the different stages. Okay, so we have done stage 0, which was your grid capstone. So when you go there, you can watch it here. So if I click on this, it's going to open this up, and if I click on the video, I can watch whatever class I need. So the same thing goes with let's say our introduction, UX strategy, and the rest of it. So UX problem solving and your design heuristic evaluation. So let's say UX problem solving. If I click on this, I can also click here and I can watch my class. All right. So I hope we I hope that solves your problem. All right. So you can also go directly to YouTube to actually get that. Okay. So you can still go to YouTube to access that. All right. So closing. So we say that a mode board doesn't tell you exactly what to design. It tells you how the design should make user feel. All right. Use mode board early to set the emotional tone for your product and also align your team visually, creatively, and also strategically. All right. And also an icon may be small, but the story it tells is huge. So, but it speaks at a glance. So make sure that it's what they are saying is clear, kind, and consistent. So if the design I reviewed and I'm seeing an icon is being used, but the label is saying move, but it is not actually move that is the icon is telling me. The icon is looking like you are taking three triangles, you make three triangles together. Okay, and that is not how move button looks like. So when we are using our icon, let's be consistent, and also let's be clear about what we use, because most users judges the UI or judges the next action based on the icon. If I want to navigate to menu or on our mobile, if I see cancel on a mobile responsiveness, I see X on a mobile responsiveness, and a designer is telling me if I click on there, it's going to pop up my menu option for me. I will not click it because X means cancel. So why should a designer decide to use X as a hamburger menu? So those are things we should always take note of. So there are resources here that talks about our mood board and also our icon. And before we close, is there any question? Last Any question before we close? Mr. Yemi, don't worry. I think that comment was deleted. Okay, so you shouldn't worry about that particular icon. Sorry, that particular comment. All right. So I guess there is no question. So don't miss next class. Don't miss next class. All right. Don't miss next class. Okay. Goodness, you says, can we still submit our tax? Yes. There is no until when we reach tax 8. That is when you have liberty to submit your tax until when it comes to capstone project. You can submit your tax anytime, but the fact is, if you submit it after the deadline, you don't have your complete mark. So that is it. So that's the consequences. So you can always submit your tax anytime, any day. Take your time. So if you want your complete score, submit it on time before the deadline. But if you feel it is not necessary, well, can take your time, submit it. But when we are on stage 8, when once stage 8 tax drops, and then you are not on stage 8, and then you don't submit it exactly when people are submitting, that is when you can't be certified, and then you can't go into the capstone project, and then you can't also get your certificate. You cannot be certified. So that is the consequences of not. So my advice to you is when once the next tax drop, follow it. The second tax, follow it up. Try to be consistent with your, like, try to keep up. I know it's not easy, but at least this cohort, this particular code camp, they've given you guys up to 5 days of doing a particular task that will not even take you up to 24 hours. So I don't see reasons why we make deadline meet us and then we are still thinking of submitting. Like, till now, over half of us have not still submitted our tax, which is bad. All right. So let's see. Is there any other question? So you can submit your tax, goodness. All right. Can submit even tax 0, can submit tax 1. I always try my best to grade you on time so that you can meet up um with your other tax. Okay, any other question? All right, Zinab, go ahead.
Okay, sir. Sorry. If you have submitted our task and you graded it and you told us to make corrections, if we make that correction, are you going to regrade? Are you going to increase our mark?
Wait, let me ask you another question. The purpose of you learning, is it to learn to pass, or you learn to understand, or to take corrections and then improve your skills?
To take corrections and improve our skills, okay.
Does that answer your question too? Okay, so that answers your question too. And also, um, if you score lower than the cutoff mark, the cutoff point, yes, when you do the corrections, your point will be increased, but to the cutoff point. So if let's say you had for 50, then you now do your corrections, and then I now see that you have attended to all comments, then I increase it. It's not going to pass. Let's say the cutoff point is 75, it's not going to pass 75. All right. So, but that's why I tell people, when you are doing your tax, take your time. Look it up first before you submit. Because once you submit, uh, you might be unlucky that you submit and then I'm grading a tax at that particular time. And then once you submit, I see it and I jump on it. And then I see you that you are still designing inside that file. I'll grade what I see. And then when I give you a score, I will not change. It will not pass your cutoff point. It will not pass it. Regrading do not, it doesn't increase more than the cutoff. So take time and do your tax well. Use 2 days, like 2 days, you can use it to finish up your tax and then do it well. All right. I hope that's all. Uh, okay, Chuko Kalu, you are just joining the class. I did not see you in my class. Can you unmute the mic and tell the entire class why you are just joining the class now? Okay, Chuko Kalu, can you hear me? Okay. All right. Let me not punish you. Uh, let me not punish. Goodness is already begging on your behalf. So let me allow you. Next time you come to the class late, you unmute and tell the entire class why you came late. Okay? Uh, let's. Okay, you're in church. You're even multitask himself. Oh, voila. All right. Yes, so Mr. Yemi has a lot of things that he's doing, but he's always coming to class. He has never missed my class. So let's make it a habit. And it's a very good habit. So that, because once you go and watch YouTube videos, well, if you come and ask me question in the class, I'll answer. Sorry, on the group, I'll answer. Or in the next class, you come ask me, I will still answer. Okay, but in as much me, I prefer live class because I like hearing directly from the teacher, from the horse's mouth. I don't call myself horse now. So I like hearing from the teacher's mouth. Okay, so always try to, because once you say I'll hold you accountable that I hate her. So I not tell me that YouTube changes my R to A. Okay, all right. I feel that's all for today. Don't miss our next class. I'll continue to emphasize on this. Don't miss it. I'm not going to do any slide, Okay, no, no. I'll do small slide, like 10 slide, 10 pages of slide. We'll jump into Figma and then we'll design the hell out of it. So do have a good day and God bless you guys. Goodness, bye bye. We have closed.